more people, not just activists, but many in the general electorate population are not just ready for an anti-Zionist argument. They are hungry for it. They're in despair for it. Sometimes we have to listen to what people are saying and how conditions have changed.
A tweet that was put out by Zarah Sultana. It says, the smears won't work this time. I say it loudly and proudly. I'm an anti-Zionist. Print that. This was in response to a tweet that someone had put out that saying Jeremy Corbyn, in quotes, capitulated on anti-Semitism as Labour leader. His co-leader, Zarah Sultana, has claimed, we've built on the strengths of Corbynism. We also have to recognise its limitations. It capitulated to the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism. So that tweet from Zarah Sultana picked up a lot of headlines. I think there was a libel against her, and she successfully got an apology from someone who smeared her for anti-Semitism. And then I just suddenly saw this clip that came out that was being shared a lot on social media of Jeremy Corbyn being interviewed by Middle East Eye. And he addresses this whole issue of what Zarah Sultana had written in that tweet. So this is what Jeremy Corbyn said in the interview with Middle East Eye.
Zarah Sultana did a recent interview where she said that the Labour Party under your leadership was wrong to have adopted the controversial IHRA definition of anti-Semitism. And she said the smears won't work anymore and that she's proudly an anti-Zionist. What do you think about all that?
Well, I think it wasn't really necessary for her to bring all that up in the interview, but that's what she decided to do. The party did adopt the IHRA definition. Personally, I was more in favour of the Jerusalem Declaration, which is simply saying that anti-Semitism is wrong. It is wrong to be anti-Semitic, and it is perfectly possible to discuss the politics and behaviour of the State of Israel without being anti-Semitic. People do that all the time. Indeed, many people in Israel do that all the time. And so our party will have a resolutely anti-racist position, and I'm looking to put some kind of general declaration of respect for all communities, all ethnicities, all languages, all faiths, and no faiths. And so it'll be a general anti-racist position. I was under a great deal of pressure to adopt the IHRA. That happened. The majority of the National Executive, a huge majority, including people who are very close to me, wanted it adopted, and that was duly done. And then later, the examples were also adopted, which I personally had the greatest concerns about, because I think a definition that requires examples to give it life and legs shows to me there's something badly wrong with the definition in the first place.
Now, just a bit of context on it. The clip there seems to have brought up a lot of questions about whether anti-Zionism is such a big deal. If you claim you're anti-Zionist, is it such a big deal? Is it just a word? It doesn't mean anything? Or should anti-Zionism be a kind of prerequisite of the new party? And Jeremy doesn't seem to be acknowledging that issue at all in that interview. I don't know. What do you make of that interview and all the kind of controversy around it that's happened?
Well, you'll have to give me a while to develop my thoughts upon this, because what I don't want to do is make a quick statement, because there are complexities behind this. First of all, it was very interesting how they took what Zarah Sultana had said in the first tweet you showed and made it about Corbyn. Absolutely, this was his fault. So that's obviously what they're trying to do. The second thing is, and obviously, Corbyn has got this a bit wrong. In his interview with Middle East Eye, he said he was talking about the Jerusalem Declaration, but the Jerusalem Declaration was not around when he was actually discussing the IHRA in the way that he's suggesting. But let's just put that away. Let's just put that over there. Yes, Corbyn and the whole movement, let's remember the whole movement was under huge pressure. It wasn't just Corbyn, it was all of us. And the responsibility of a leader is, amongst other things, to be able to take that pressure and also not to undermine those who are in support of them. And that's even more important when you are the leader of a party where large influential factions of it, like the MPs, like many of the trades unions, are actually actively organising against you. Okay, so I'm taking those two things totally as a context. Now, this time, things are going to be both better and worse. The worst thing, the way things have worsened, is that the whole political discourse has been pushed to the right, and not just by the sort of orthodox right, such as the Tory party and Reform, but also by a right-wing Labour Party who've enabled that push to the right to happen so successfully. Now, of course, that's also an advantage to us, because actually what you've got now is a bi-party or a tri-party system where actually I would say the level of agreement by all three of those parties is becoming more and more clear. So what people are crying out for is a clear and distinct alternative place to put their votes. Let's not forget that when we see votes, what are you going to vote? One of the votes we need to capture, we all know how it works, is the don't knows and the don't votes. And the reasons people don't know and don't vote is because they're not given proper choices. And it's up to us to actually respond to that. But there's also the issue about the economy, because as the economy continues to be unable to deliver the level of growth that's needed, as the economy, as the people in control of our economy also keep on with this daft refusal to tax wealth, it makes our establishment not just increasingly defensive, but aggressive as well. And you can see that in the draconian measures that they're bringing in to keep control of speech, control of information, control of resistance. Now, of course, we're going to be more ready for it this time, but it's going to be much stronger. And to go in without a really clear platform is going to leave us vulnerable. Now, I'm going to bring up another way in which we are going to be far, far stronger than we were ever before. Everybody in Gaza City, everybody, man, woman, child, baby, disabled, starving, without water, scrofulous as they are, has been told to leave Gaza under summer conditions, which means it's 34 degrees of heat. Those people are expected to walk through what is a battlefield while the bombs are dropping on them. Yesterday, there was evidence that the Israelis were starting to use gas. So let's be clear what that is. And let's be clear that that's what people are seeing. As that genocide gets worse, which is absolutely what it will, people, more people, not just activists, but many in the general electorate population are not just ready for an anti-Zionist argument. They are hungry for it. They're in despair for it. They don't know why people aren't, why politicians aren't offering them it. And without that, where are they going to go? So the argument actually becomes, do we become a party that is there to offer people alternative choices which stem from left thought or not. Now, we know that the traps that they're going to come for us, and anybody who thinks they're not going to use anti-Semitism really needs to rethink. They're going to use it not just in the way we've seen, but as people come into that party, they're going to pick people off and go, you were done for anti-Semitism and you were done for anti-Semitism. And look at what you said 10 years ago or 15 years ago or 20 years ago. Now, this formulation that Corbyn has made, and it is a formulation, what he's trying to encourage you to do as activists and as people who will be in support of the new party is to think that saying you're anti-racist will avoid that discussion. It won't work. We were anti-racist before. In fact, it will make the situation worse. Because if by now you don't, and not just if, but and, if you don't understand by now that Zionism is racism, as we are seeing the workings out of Jewish supremacism, of Jewish exceptionalism, if you don't understand that Zionism is a form of racism, you will lose that argument. You will decimate your own support base. Now, we need to take hold of that argument now so that we don't get mired in that conversation, so that we're able to develop policies on the economy, on migration, on all the things like education and the NHS that are really important to us. Otherwise, we're going to get mired in that conversation. We need to shift that conversation so it becomes one of anti-Zionism. And on anti-Zionism, they will lose. They will lose popular opinion because of what we have seen in front of us. So it's really important. And can I just say, I was at the festival. Some of you will have seen the tweet that Zarah put out. I was at the festival when Zarah publicly first came out with I'm an anti-Zionist. The sigh of relief in the audience was palpable. The gasp of relief amongst the activists who were gathered there was totally, utterly palpable. This is the only way that we will become unapologetic and a fighting party, not a party who are willing and ready to decimate our own activists and our own leaders. And can I just add, I'm coming to the end of this. I know it's been a bit long, but I've really felt I needed to make a full explanation of my position. I heard Jeremy yesterday saying quite rightly, that what we need is a bottom-up democracy of a party that can hold our leaders to account, because that's what a bottom-up democracy is. I would like to know, as an essential part of that, for example, and I'd like to know that as soon as possible, and I would like us to be asking, who at the moment, which body is controlling the database? Because I have learnt from experience, and anybody who doesn't know the story of how John Lansman got control of Momentum and the database needs to actually get informed and needs to look towards the way that our leaders allowed that to happen and allowed him, I mean, to control it to the fact that local groups could not use the database without direct access from central control. That must not happen again. Of course, there are issues around data management, but they can easily be gotten around. The same goes with money. People are already donating to that. I need an assurance as soon as possible that all candidates will have the availability to that database. And in terms of, you know, what does this movement need? Okay, this is really my wrapping up thought. Jeremy, for all his influence and all his goodness and all his effectiveness and all his strengths, will be 80 at the next general election. I'm 71, and there are many comrades that I know that are here that are heading towards that age. The thought of having a sole leader who is 80 years old going into an election makes me just fear both what we are and what we're heading towards. So I think we need at least to have a shared leadership. You know, that is the kind of thing we need. And I would like to just call out to those people who are around both of those figures now working to that, and understand that they are there to act for the interests of the movement. And sometimes we have to listen to what people are saying and how conditions have changed. And it's time that we changed with that. It is not good enough to just be anti-racist. We have to be anti-Zionists.